Haddon Hall, perhaps the simplest and most understated of English stately homes, is also one of the finest medieval manor houses in Britain. Nestled in the heart of the Peak District National Park, on the banks of the River Wye, Haddon Hall is one of Britain's most haunted houses. In the mid-12th century, the hall passed from its Norman founders to the Vernon family, who owned it for 400 years, until the most famous event in its history occurred. In 1558, the sole remaining Vernon heir, Dorothy, married John Manners, a child of another powerful family, who later became Dukes of Rutland. Their union is commemorated in their joint tomb in Bakewell church. Dorothy Vernon was 18 at the time, and it is said that the couple eloped during the wedding of one of her sisters. There must have been some sort of reconciliation, as Dorothy and John later became owners of Haddon Hall. The hall has now been owned by the Manners family ever since. The mansion fell into 200 years of neglect from the start of the 18th century until the 9th Duke began restoring Haddon Hall in 1912. It is uncertain as to the reason why the building was neglected, and there was a lack of interest to buyers. Local law explains this may have something to do with the fact that the ghost of Dorothy Vernon is said to appear there on a regular basis, usually seen on the steps leading up to Haddon Hall, as if being chased. The hall has changed little, if at all, since the reign of Henry VIII. The walls of its dark rooms are hung with splendid 17th century tapestries, the furniture and kitchen all being original. Its stone steps and flagstone floors are worn by the ravages of time, and its ancient fabric positively crackles with the events to which it has borne silent witness. The spiritually inclined have understandably detected much ghostly activity here. They tell of cold spots on staircases, of a white lady who drifts across the impressive 14th century banqueting hall, and of a ghostly dog whose yapping is heard in the beautiful gardens that have been called the most romantic in England. A frequent visitor to the hall in the early years of the 16th century was Prince Arthur, eldest son of King Henry VII and heir to the throne. One September evening in 1501, following a strenuous day's hunting, the prince rested on the leafy banks of the River Wye in the grounds of Haddon Hall. A tall woman dressed in white, with features sunken and dull, lips of an ashy hue and eyeballs protruding bright and motionless, appeared to him in a dream and warned him, "Unhappy royal prince, one earthly pageant awaits thee, yea, it is at hand, and then thou wilt drop into the lap of thy mother earth. Forth comes to Britain's shore thy lovely, smiling bride, and widow of a royal boy." When the prince returned to the hall that evening, he was greeted with the news that his bride-to-be, Catherine of Aragon, had arrived in England, that he was to be married without delay. But not 4 months after his wedding, he died of a sudden illness. His last words are said to have been, "Oh, the vision of the cross at Haddon." With his untimely death, his brother Henry became heir to the throne, married his brother's widow, and the rest is history. The ghosts of Haddon Hall are by no means the only hauntings associated with this part of Britain. The Peak District is an area of outstanding natural beauty, rugged and steeped in mystery. Nowhere else in England boasts such a diverse landscape, untouched by industry and unspoiled by the crowds of visitors attracted to the windswept expanses each year. Not many realise that the pretty, picturesque Peak District is a bastion of pagan traditions, some of which date back to pre-Roman times. For once the moors and highlands were ruled by the Brigantes, a powerful Celtic tribe, and the many circles of standing stones dotted around the area bear mute testimony to the past dedicated to worship of their strange old gods. Many peak villages are known for their practice of well dressing, a rite of thanksgiving for water that is observed throughout the summer. This practice is an echo of distant times when wells were seen as a gateway to the other world. Perhaps such links to the past are part of the reason why even today the Peak District still maintains an aura of mystery. More UFO sightings take place here than in any other part of England. In the winter, the Devil's bonfires are seen flickering in the early hours amid the wild and bleak moorlands. There are deep mountain pools steeped in legend, and the village of Iam in particular boasts a dark secret, but those are stories for a future video. After searching for hours, I was unable to find any photos of ghosts at Haddon Hall, and I have visited the house myself and never experienced anything paranormal. But there are those that have, particularly those that work there, who have witnessed strange orbs of light floating through walls and ghostly apparitions walking the grounds. One who visits Haddon cannot deny its aura of mystery. Picture a sprawling castle that has changed little in hundreds of years, hidden amongst green trees, standing high and proud on a limestone ridge, which in the early morning floats magically on a carpet of swirling mist. As in any coast concerning ghosts, there are skeptics who offer explanations to the ghostly phenomenon at Haddon, but there are those who staunchly believe that Haddon is haunted. But ultimately, it comes down to, do you believe?